Hey, what's up everybody? It's your mortgage expert, Brian McCauley here. So you're looking to buy a house in Dallas, Texas. You're confused about these interest rates and you're not sure if now is the right time to buy? Stick around in this video. I'm gonna give you everything you need to know. So listen, as interest rates continue to rise, it's got more buyers in fear and they're trying to figure out, is now the right time to buy? Is it gonna be later? What's gonna be the effect on my pocketbook? And so what I wanna do in this video is unpack really 3 different scenarios that I want every single buyer in this market to take into consideration whenever they're looking at a property. So people's immediate fears up front is, hey, the interest rates are too high, I can't afford the payment, I'm not comfortable, I'm gonna wait. So I think when you're a buyer out there, you have to look at 3 realities. You have to look at the past, the present, and the future. So what I mean by that is when you're buying a house, think about the past. Think about maybe 18 months ago. Interest rates were probably 2% better, but people were overpaying for houses and probably paying an additional 10 to 15%. So if you bought in the past, your interest rate was more competitive and yes, your payment was lower, but the challenge is that you probably overpaid for a house, and if you didn't put 20% down, you could even be upside down in the current situation, which obviously is not advantageous for a buyer. You know, the additional option is, what about right now? Well, right now things seem to be a little bit of a turnoff when it comes to buying a property because the interest rate is higher than what it has been in a long period of time. So if you're gonna buy now, it's one of the things to where, hey, you might not overpay for the house, which is great, but you're gonna overpay for the rate. And so obviously the monthly payment's gonna be a little bit higher than you want, but at the same time, look at the trade-off. Well, do you wanna take a lower rate in payment and go back in time and be upside down in your equity? Or do you maybe wanna use the current market right now to time it properly, see if you can get a deal on a house, get some concessions, even do some rate buy downs, but even if you had to have a little bit higher of a payment right now, the equity position and what you could get from the seller would supersede anything when it comes to the previous structure and the previous rate. Why do I say that? So you gotta imagine to yourself, you know, most people buy houses because they want to live in them, but naturally homes appreciate. Where you're gonna figure out the trick when it comes to buying a house at a lower price and taking a higher rate is you're probably gonna have a forever home, but that's not a forever loan. One of the benefits to potential buyers about buying in a market right now where the prices are down but the rates are up is you're gonna refinance out of that note anywhere from 12 to 24 months. But the cool thing about making money on a house is, let's say you bought a $400,000 house today. Now, 18 months ago, that house is probably $450,000, $460,000. Yes, you got a more competitive rate in payment, but now the problem is that you've got a great rate in payment on a house that may not be worth that anymore, and you may even be upside down. Versus if you're buying today at $400,000, your interest rate might be in the 7s, but what's gonna happen is, as we transition into the future and what the future looks like, I wanna show everybody exactly what to think about short-term and long-term. So if we buy a property that's $400,000 now and the rate's 7.5, yeah, the payment isn't ideal, but I promise you 50% of our clients are getting temporary interest rate buy downs. What is a temporary interest rate buy down? It's where you, the buyer, can temporarily buy the interest rate down for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, either at 1% lower, 2% lower, or 3% lower. And a lot of times you can get that interest rate buy down at the cost of the seller. So even though the interest rate might be 7.5, you could start year 1 at 4.5, year 2 at 5.5, and heaven forbid it goes to year 3 at 6.5. Most people are probably only gonna keep the current notes for maybe, again, 12 to 24 months. So if you get a 2-1 buy down, which is a 2-year interest rate buy down lower than the current market, you're fully protected for that 24 months and your rates and your payments are much, much cheaper as that starting rate. But what will happen is, let's fast forward to the future, right? What's the option of, hey, Brian, I just don't love where things are at politically. I don't like where things are at from an inflation standpoint. I'm sure I can probably get a good deal on the house, but again, the interest rate's 7.5. Maybe I get the buy down, maybe I don't. I just want to wait until the market calms down. I want to see where things are at in 2024, and I want to maybe go back and look at a property then when interest rates are, you know, 1% better and just kind of test the waters then. So, okay, let's move forward. So if we've got a $400,000 house, and the interest rates are 7.5 today. Let's fast forward to end of the year in 2024, and let's just say interest rates are 1% cheaper. My question to you is, what does that property look like? What does the market look like? What's it gonna do to you and for you? So a lot of people are waiting for interest rates to drop. Number 1, from a comfort standpoint, but number 2, from an affordability standpoint. Some people just honestly can't qualify. So if interest rates in the future, 12 months from now, are 1% lower than they are now, here's what happens. this $400,000 house is gonna have a lot of demand on it, because if people can't afford a 7.5 but they can afford a 6.5, you're gonna have multiple buyers come off the sideline at one time, and then everyone's gonna be pressing for that same house. And so what happens is that $400,000 house in a year is probably 425, 430. So what you save in the interest rate by waiting for the future, you're gonna lose some of that because the cost of the house is gonna go up. And so it's not gonna be apples to apples where it's 400,000 at 7.5 today and 400,000 at 7.5 then. It'll be 425,000 at 6.5. And while the rate and the payment might be slightly lower, what I want you to understand is if you bought that house here at 400,000 and then it goes to 420, 425 in a year, you've actually made $25,000 in equity and appreciation. And you have to remember that's a lot of money. The question would be, hey, would you trade a higher rate and payment for 12 months to make $25,000 in the upswing? Most people would say yes. Second component of that, outside of the numbers piece, is what does the market look like? Meaning, if this house is 425 in a year, how many people like you are going after it? 1, 2, 5, 10, 20? Can you even get that house? What if the house gets pushed up to 440? What if you can get it for 430, but there's multiple offers? In this scenario also, with houses 400,000, you can normally get a great deal from the seller, not only on the price, you can get your closing costs paid for, which is probably 8 to 10 grand, and you may be able to get more to buy the interest rate down. When demand starts to rise, you're gonna see not only does the price of that house go up, but any and all concessions that you were able to get, 10, 12 grand for closing costs, 10, 12 grand for rate buy downs, that's all gone. So you're gonna have to come out of pocket on that piece as well. So not only are you going to save money on the price of the house, probably get some of your closing costs paid for, maybe even be able to buy down the interest rate. And a year from now, even though the rate and the payment might be a little bit less, you're gonna pay more for the house, lose the equity that you could have made, probably have to pay for your own closing costs, so that's another probably 8 or 10 out of pocket. And so you have to think about all these variables when buying a house, because all these things matter. And sometimes when the demand goes up so strong, these house prices start pushing up, and it's impossible to get a house. They list at breakfast, you gotta make an offer by lunch, there's 3 or 4 people, they're not giving any closing cost, maybe you have to go above the list price and pay an extra $10,000 out of pocket in cash. All these things matter, and so that's where I want people to not just pay attention to the rate, I want them to pay attention to the total cost of the house, the behavior of the human, what it looked like in the past, what it looks like now, and what it's gonna look like in the future. And then the projection going into 2025 is interest rates should bottom out somewhere late Q1 or summer of 25. So then you gotta ask yourself, okay, what does this same house look like in Q1 of 2025 when rates are 1.5% lower? How about summer 25 when interest rates might be 2+% lower? Yes, everybody's gonna love the 5% rates and the payments, but that $400,000 house, that was 440. The following year, it's now 480 or 500. So the issue is that people that are gonna wait on the rate, they're gonna pay $500,000 for the house that was 400. If it were me, I would take this house at 400, get all my closing costs paid for, get a temporary rate buy down, and have a 24-month window for cheap payments, knowing that interest rates are going to continue to trend down the following year and probably stretch that way all the way through the election in 25. And then what happens is that demand goes up, and 18 months from now, the $400,000 house is worth 500. You refinance somewhere in the middle to a mid-5, high-5 rate that you're super happy with, but you've made so much money by buying at the right time. Remember, when it comes to real estate, you don't wait to buy. You buy and wait, because historically things go up over time. So if you could fast forward 24 months from now and I said, hey, take a $400,000 house at a 7.5 rate, and then in the summer or winter of 2025, that $400,000 house is worth $500,000, you now refinanced from a 7.5 to a 599, your rate's good, your payment's good, you're happy, but you've made that 100K. The question is, would you take it? Most people say yes, and that's why I want to make sure that everyone understands the total cost of the home, the past, present, and the future when helping you make your decision if now is the right time to buy. So listen, hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, share it with somebody you know that could benefit from this video as well. And listen, if you want to have a call about the market, get pre-approved, or just talk about your financial situation, do me a favor, call us, email us, text us. We're always here for you. Until next time, stay tuned.